It is time for a new episode of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I am Jason Floyd, rocking solo on this edition of the Fight HQ podcast, as my guy Pete was not able to join me here today. Is actually this is my first day back in the office from a vacation. Spent the past 6 days out in Mexico, so I had a good time out there with the family. Of course, I hope everyone is doing well. Hopefully, your weekend's off to a great start. Of course, tonight we have UFC Atlanta. Of course, going to be headlined by 𝗛𝗲𝘁'𝘀 taking on Joaquin Buckley. Big matchup here in the welterweight division. Really a matchup where has Father Time hit 𝗛𝗲𝘁'𝘀, or are we about to see the rise of Joaquin Buckley? Of course, your co-main event will be a women's flyweight matchup. Rose Namajunas taking on Miranda Maverick. So if you got any questions, be sure to line those up in chat. Do kind of want to make this show more about questions about the DFS aspect of this fight card, also the betting aspect of this fight card. You can leave those questions right here in the YouTube chat, or if you want to leave them on the Discord channel, you can do that as well. If you're not a member of our Discord channel, totally free to join. Link for that is below. Of course, if you want to send a super chat, those are always much appreciated as well. So let's get right into breaking down UFC Atlanta. By the way, we do have a DraftKings contest. That contest is already live. Also, if you want to get access to Pete's algorithm, you can sign up for his Patreon page. Link to that Patreon page is below. Also, if you want to take advantage of the tools that Stochastic has, we do have an offer to them, as they are giving Fight HQ listeners 15% off any of their MMA packages. All you got to do is either click the link below here on YouTube, or you can just, when you sign up over there at Stochastic, just use the promo code Fight HQ. So that's how they know that you came here from the Fight HQ podcast. So appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of the Fight HQ podcast. So let's get right into this one. And, you know, when I was putting together yesterday, as I was literally sitting in the Cabo airport, I was starting to kind of put together my spreadsheet and, you know, some things on this fight card. You know, one of the things that really sticks out to you is the amount of 9,000 fighters that we have on this fight card. Of course, headlined by Malcolm Wellmaker at 9,800. Of course, he's taking on Chris Montillo. Malcolm is one of two essentially local fighters on this card. The UFC wants to have those kind of local fighters when they're doing these fight night cards, where we're going to get people in the seats. The other one being Cody Durden. I will tell you, Cody Durden is actually one of three betting underdogs that really does stick out to me on this fight card, whether we're talking about from a DFS aspect or whether we're talking from a gambling aspect. I will tell you, there's a sneaky three-fighter parlay that I do have out there that I'll mention here later on. So, by the way, I do have Pete's picks. I will give you those picks later on here. We'll probably go 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much the questions do come in here. So, be sure to line those questions up here now. But, yeah, you look at those 9,000 range, and there's two fighters in the 9,000 range that, to me, when you're looking for leverage plays, they're going to be the female fighters on this card, that being Rose Namajunas and Jamie Lynn Horth at 9,400 on DK, $20 on FanDuel. Rose Namajunas, 9,100 on DK. At $18 on FanDuel. You know, if you're looking to get leverage in 9,000 range, that's where the leverage is going to be when we're talking about DraftKings or even on FanDuel of going after those fighters. And, you know, when you look at the ownership projections that are out there, those are two fights that people aren't getting to, which is totally understandable. I absolutely get why people are not getting to either one of those fights, because, look, they're fights that likely are going to go a distance. You know, you look at the opening fight, Vanessa Demopoulos, you kind of know, I mean, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be looking to roster Vanessa Demopoulos just as a low-end option, but you got to know what the ceiling is with Vanessa Demopoulos if she's going to go out there and get a decision victory. It's probably about 65, maybe 70 points. That's going to be her ceiling. She's not, most likely not going to go out there and get 100, but I could very well see Jamie Lynn Horth going out there and just outboxing her for 3 rounds in that matchup. You know, and then, of course, the co-main event is going to be a matchup where Rose is going to have to defend takedowns in that matchup, and Miranda Maverick is going to go for takedowns. So, but if you're looking for a leverage spot in terms of this card, to me, those are two fights to go for there. Derek, how are the margaritas? They were good, man. I had a couple of different margaritas. We were staying at a nice little resort there, and certainly had some margaritas. Had some of the, it was funny. I'll tell you, one of the things of, how I always say this is, TikTok just kind of knows what's going on in your life. And of course, I'm just scrolling TikTok and they're basically telling me every type of, drink I should have in Cabo. One of those being a Miami Vice, which I will flat out tell you right now was one of those drinks that I literally did not taste any alcohol in it at all. And I probably could have drank 20 of those things. But yeah, it was a good time. Margaritas were very good there in terms of that. And, Derek, also mentioned Horth at 9.4K in 2025 is criminal. I mean, look, I think a lot of it is, when you look at the betting odds for this fight card, I mean, we just got some massive favorites on this fight card. When you talk about Omar Sy, an 8-1 betting favorite. Malcolm Wellmaker has been a 25-1, as much as a 25-1 betting favorite. I will say this, on the betting side of it, just because Moutinho has shown toughness in the UFC, the Wellmaker via decision prop is one that does stick out to me. Looking at the Hard Rock book, where, of course, that's our book here in Florida, that's at plus 550. In terms of the $9,800 price tag on DraftKings, that one to me is just one that is really scary to me in terms of that price. Matt, oh God, Mexican resort prices. Hopefully we have to resort for food. We did leave resort for food. Actually, I will tell you this. When I was checking out yesterday, I fully expected my bar and food tab to be much much worse than what it was. When I go down there, you're kind of like, oh man, I've been here for 6 days. Been sitting at the pool during the day. At a swim up pool. You're drinking, and the tab was about half of what I thought it was going to be. So I was very ecstatic about that when I saw what the prices were there. And Matt, yeah, it was kind of like it was a dark rum. It was called a Miami Vice. It was a dark rum, which was just like a rum they had. It was a pina colada and strawberry mix. It was a good, it's a great pool drink, a great beach drink but literally I could have probably sat there and drank 50 of those things because I just felt like I did not taste anything in terms of that one. But yeah, it was a good time. When you look in that 9,000 range, I think we got to start talking about Joaquin Buckley in this situation. And, and when I was putting some notes last night on this fight, and I wrote key talking points in terms of this matchup. So when you look at Usman and Buckley, Kamaru Usman, he's in the 7,000 range. He's 7,200 DK, $14 on FanDuel. And to me, on the Usman side of the equation, it is, do you trust a 38-year-old Kamaru Usman who has lost 3 in a row? Now, 2 of those were against Leon Edwards and title fights. And then, of course, his last fight was against Chimaev back in October of 2023, where he takes a fight on short notice, fights up at 185 pounds, and gets off to a awful start in that matchup. Just a completely awful start. But then he started to come on in rounds 2 and round 3. So you sit there and you say, okay, do I want to trust a 38-year-old where Usman has talked about, the battles he has with his health and particularly with his knees. To me, the key talking point on Joaquin Buckley is, do you trust him over 5 rounds? Because we have seen in various UFC fights where you start to see Buckley wear down in the 3rd round. And that to me is a concern. I think overall, I'm expecting tonight to go 25 minutes. I would be somewhat surprised if we see a stoppage in this matchup. If you tell me there's a stoppage in the matchup, I think the stoppage in the matchup is on the Joaquin Buckley side. What scares me about the price point of Joaquin Buckley at 9,000 is, if he doesn't get takedowns, is he going to land enough volume at 9,000 because of so many 9,000 options we have tonight? Is he going to sit there and be able to give us an optimal score at 9,000? That is my concern. I would imagine the game plan of Kamaru Usman in this matchup is to just jab him to death, maybe try to get some takedowns. Buckley does have a wrestling background, and really try to get this fight into rounds 3, rounds 4, and round 5, and really test that cardio of Joaquin Buckley. But also, being in this game for a long time, this is classic Joe Silva matchmaking. If you've been around this sport for a long time, you understand what I'm saying there. If you've not been around this sport for a long time, Joe Silva Classic matchmaking is where you put the guy who is rising up the ladder, kind of a younger guy, and you're going to have him take on the vet of the sport. And maybe that vet of the sport is on the back nine of his career. And we all know 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻 is on the back nine of his career. I don't mind rostering 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻 at $7,200. Do I think Buckley wins this fight more times than not? Yes, I do. Buckley will be my official pick. But from a DraftKings perspective or a FanDuel, if you're playing over on FanDuel, and with me and Pete doing the show on Mondays, usually FanDuel salaries are not out. They don't come out till later on in the week. So we really don't talk about FanDuel. We can talk about FanDuel today if you do have those questions. But to me, I look at Usman at 7,200. I like the value there. There is value there. Even though I think Buckley is going to win this matchup, I expect Buckley. I think Buckley goes out there and wins the decision. I was looking at the decision props on the betting side. They're really not that. They're not that great. I will tell you this. I've wrote down a bunch of prop plays for this fight card, and I have nothing on the main event. I don't think from a gambling perspective, and I'll put all my gambling plays in our Discord channel right before the fight card starts, so you know what I like tonight. I'm going to label out a bunch of things that do stick out to me in terms of this fight card. Let's get here's a question coming in here from Daniels. He says, I'll be under on the main, almost guaranteed 9,000 for Buckley versus a legend like Usman. Is just too much for a low volume guy like Buckley. Usman, outside of Chimaev and Leon, he's got 7 straight 100+ strikes. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing to me about Usman is, where is he at when we're talking about 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻 in 2025? We know about the history of 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻. To me, if you're rostering 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻 or if you're placing a bet on 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻 tonight, it's about playing the value here. I think the line is mispriced. When I was doing my card last night, Buckley a 3-1 betting favorite, plus 240 for Usman. I understand, and I'll pull up what ownership projections are. I know I pulled up ownership projections of what they were yesterday. The projection on Buckley over on DraftKings, I think it makes sense of what he's at. But to me, it becomes down to is ultimately, does he pay off his price? But I mean, look, if you're looking to conserve some money here on this fight card, you're trying to, when you're hand building a lineup, whether it's a single entry or a multi-entry type lineup, I think you have to look at 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻 as one of those quote unquote pump plays. When we talk about those plays 7,400 and below, 𝗻𝗄𝗄 𝘂𝐻 is one of the ones that really sticks out to me outside of those punt plays that are in the 6K range. I've already talked about Vanessa Anopoulos, but you know what the ceiling is going to be if Vanessa goes out there and gets a decision victory. But there's other ones you look at, and probably the one underneath that in that 6K range that probably sticks out to me the most, besides Vanessa Anopoulos, I would say is Paul Craig. It's going to be a boom or bust play on Paul Craig. You know it's going to be here, but I don't trust the chin of Rodolfo Bellato. And even though you would probably say, if you were looking for Paul Craig to win this matchup, that it's likely a submission because that's what Paul Craig does, don't mind going out there and taking Paul Craig to win by knockout. One of the prop bets I wrote down was Paul Craig inside the distance, plus 475. I also say over at the Hard Rock Sportsbook, I did notice a little earlier, they had a prop of Bellato wins round 1 or round 2 at minus 120. I don't mind that bet at all. That's one of those things I go in there in terms of that one. Let me just try to get some questions in here to catch up on some of the questions that have already come in here in terms of everything on YouTube. I will get over to Scored here in a second. And Daniels goes, whatever you think a fighter needs for the optimal today, at least 5 to 10 to it. I mean, look, we know that the reality is we need 650, 700 points to take down these top GPPs. That's just what you're going to have to do. Craig for upside, not close. If he gets the takedowns going early, he can really score well here. I mean, look, for me, rostering Paul Craig is a complete punt play. It's a complete punt play. But I don't know if I trust the chin of Bellato in this situation. And the fact that, of course, we all know these guys were supposed to fight a couple weeks ago. Fight did not happen due to the medical issue with Bellato, with him. Why he put out what it was on social media is still, it's still baffling to me. It's very baffling to me that you would put that out there in terms of that one. That is something that I would sit there and say it would have a little bit of a concern for me. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that I look at Rodolfo Bellato and I just say is like, I'm kind of surprised that Paul Craig took the fight after what happened. I'm sure he has got to have some question marks in terms of that one. I did see David over in our Discord, I guess having a little issue on YouTube. I would just say I pull up YouTube and I'm having no problems. If you're having no problems on YouTube, you can go to my Twitter account as well, at Jason_Floyd. The show is being streamed there as well. It's also on my Facebook page as well. Try to get some other questions in here before we kind of really dive into some more of this one here. I just want to scroll up here. By the way, if you put some of the score, I have not seen it. Be sure to throw those questions in there. By the way, before we get into those questions, I will start off and say I'm gonna give you Pete's picks right now. I know a lot of people want to know what Pete's picks are. In the main event, he's got Joaquin Buckley. Co-main event, Rose Namajunas, Edmund Shabazian, which that to me is a GPP fight, just for me. I'm not speaking for him. By the way, I will tell you which ones I necessarily disagree with Pete as we go down. He has Hani Barcelos. I disagree with Pete there in that one. I think if Barcelos is not coming off that win against Peyton Talbot, I don't think this salary is what it is. I think it's much closer. And especially on the betting side, I don't think Barcelos will be a 2-1 betting favorite. I'm going to pick Cody Garbrandt. He is one of the underdogs I do like on this fight card. But let's just be real about it. Do you have a lot of trust in either one of these guys? You don't. You really don't have trust in either one of those guys. But I do like the value of Cody Garbrandt at plus 175. Next up, Mansour Abdul-Malik is the pick for Pete. Totally agree with there. Right now, how do you have any faith in Cody Brunch? Look, personally, I like Cody Brunch. I've interviewed the guy on multiple occasions. I interviewed this guy when he was a 2-0 fighter. I like Cody. I just don't think he can get the job done here. I really don't see the path for Cody Brunch getting the victory here unless he, maybe he, Mansour, runs himself into a guillotine. Maybe, look, it's MMA, it's punchy, kicky. He very well could get knocked out, but I just literally, I don't see how Cody gets the job done. Next up, Umar C is Pete's pick. I totally agree with him there. Actually, I think one of the ones in terms of a prop that I do find kind of interesting is C wins via decision at plus 240 if you want to get away from that big price tag as an 8-1 betting favorite. Pete picks Bellato. I would agree overall as a straight up fight pick. I would go Bellato, but I do like the GPP upside of Paul Craig in terms of that one. Then Pete likes Michael Chiesa. I'm in agreement with him. Malcolm Wellmaker, agree. We both like Cody Durden as a betting underdog. He's plus 155 on the betting side, 7,600 on DK, $15 on FanDuel. He's a local fighter. He does now train down in Coconut Creek there at American Top Team. Was at American Top Team there just outside of Atlanta for a long time. We all know the wrestling ability that he has there. To me, he is another underdog that I like as well. And then Pita has Ricky Simon, who's a massive favorite against Cameron Smotherman. That to me is one of those fights where you just hope that Ricky maybe laces up those wrestling shoes a little bit, gets us if he doesn't knock him out early. Me and Pete are both on Phil Rowe as a slight betting underdog at plus 105. And then Pete picks Vanessa Demopoulos as a 5-1 betting underdog. I'm going to go from a straight up pick. I'm going to go Jamie Lynn Horth, but I do see why you do roster Vanessa Demopoulos. So just go over Pete's picks once again. Buckley, Namajunas, Shabazian, Barcelos, Abdul-Malik C, Bellato, Chiesa, Wellmaker, Durden, Simone, Rowe, and Demopoulos. So I know a lot of people are asking about what his picks are going to be here. Let me get over to some questions in here in terms of the score. We'll get back to YouTube plays here, YouTube questions here in a second. Sam's got his usual questions here. Best top plays. If you can get to Abdul-Malik at 9,600, I think he finishes Cody in the first round. If he doesn't finish in the first round, I think he finishes him in the second round. I do like him as a play at 9,600. Wellmaker at 9,800. This is my concern with Wellmaker. And so the word on the street is when the UFC was looking to find a replacement opponent for Malcolm Wellmaker, a lot of guys are turning the fight down. That is the word on the street. whether that's true or not, but I got some information that very well is true. Chris Moutinho taking this fight. Moutinho, yes, has done well on the regional scene, but I'm just going to be question. I don't know how to put this the most nice way, but not the greatest of competition to me. That's just how I'm put it. Moutinho, we have seen the toughness of him. That's why, I just concern Wellmaker if he doesn't get the finish. I don't know how the hell he pays off that $1,900 price tag. That's why I would say is looking at the betting side, Wellmaker via decision at plus 550 is one that sticks out to me. Rose Namajunas, to me, could be an interesting one, even though I don't love her at this weight class because she is going to give up size to everyone. And we know she is going to have to stop takedowns in this matchup. And, I was looking at some takedown stats on both Namajunas and Miranda Maverick. Last 3 fights, Rose Namajunas she has had to defend 21 takedown attempts. She's been taken out 8 times, but overall, she pretty much is able to get back to her feet. When you look at Maverick, she's landed 10 takedowns in her last 4 fights in 31 attempts. A lot of those fights, two takedowns. Maverick, to me, she's going to have the size advantage in this one, but I would say this, man, I think Rose could be a sneaky play today. And because she clearly has a massive advantage in the striking aspect of this matchup. If Miranda Maverick cannot get this fight to the ground, I truly believe that Rose will just piece her apart on the outside. And I was kind of surprised by this number. Rose wins inside the distance 6-1. I will have a bet on that one. I'm going to tell you right now, that would be a little sprinkle bet for me. But I was kind of surprised to see it 6-1. I mean, clearly the bookmakers think this fight's going to go the distance, and it probably does. It probably does go the distance. But I don't see Miranda Maverick being at the level of Rose Namajunas, even though I think she's going to have a size advantage. I don't think this is going to be something like what we saw last week with Kayla Harrison and Juliana Pena, where Kayla Harrison literally looked 2 weight classes bigger than Juliana Pena. And, I mean, that was an absolute thrashing. Just a thrashing by Kayla Harrison. But to me, I think Rose is a little bit of a sneaky play there in that 9,000 range. I'm not against, having 30-ish% of Joaquin Buckley, but I think I'll be a little less than him. In terms of single entry lineups, I don't know how much of the main event I'll truly get to. I understand the 5-round aspect of it, and particularly if it's 5 rounds and it's plays out on the feet, could be a very high volume fight for Kamaru Usman. That's why I think Usman is a very interesting play. When you look at the 8,000 range in terms of top plays, the guy that sticks out to me the most, there's 2 guys that stick out to me the most, and they're 8,800 and 8,700 DK, and that is Edmund Shabazian and Ricky Simón. You look at Shabazian, and you kind of know what you're getting Edmund Shabazian, and I think we have seen the evolution in his game since leaving California, moving to Vegas full time, and training at Extreme Couture. You've seen better, but you do have cardio concerns. To me, if Shabazian doesn't get him out in the first or second round, that to me is where Andre Petroski comes very live in the situation. And one of the things that to me that sticks out about Shabazian in this one is the fact of, you look at his recent wins, it's not against stellar competition. Dylan Buka, AJ Dobson, Dolce Lungula. I mean, it's not against great competition. You have to go back to, I want to say it was 2019 when he got that win against Brad Tavares, who ironically now one of his training partners there. And he hasn't won back-to-back since 2019. When you look at Petroski, the thing that does stick out to you is his takedown landed per 15 minutes of fighting, which is 3.38. And the takedown defense, by the way, Shabazian is 65%. That to me is a path for Petroski to win this matchup. If he can, he's got to weather that early storm. That storm is going to come. You think about a guy like Terrence McKinney, you gotta weather that early storm from him. If you can weather that early storm, you're going to find yourself in a very good position. That to me is I do like Shabazian as a GPP play just because I do see the ceiling of 100, 110 points for him. Ricky Simón, Of course, to getting a last-minute replacement here in Cameron Smotherland, 8,700 DK, $20 on FanDuel. I mean, his price tag should be more north of what it really is in terms of DraftKings. So I think there's value there. One of the things I do wonder is, when I think of Ricky Simón, and this is a guy that I followed his career since he was on the regional scene, and I would love to see him lace up his wrestling shoes. And Cameron Smotherland was a guy that I remember watching on the regional scene as he was coming up, and he was a guy that I thought would do a little better than what he's done. And so to me, if Ricky Simón can, if he doesn't fall in love with trying to chase the bonus here, and he doesn't just try to sit there and knock him out, man, he could lace up the wrestling shoes, and I think he could really break the slate here. Simón, to me, would be one of my favorite plays on this fight card. You got Ochoa at 8,600, Barcelos at 8,500, Lusa at 8,400. I'll be honest with you, I don't love any three of those plays. I would say this, I would probably rank those Ochoa. If Ochoa can basically force Cody Durden to keep the fight on the feet. Barcelos, even though you're not going to trust the chin of Cody Garbrandt, but the fact is, I don't think Ronnie Barcelos is a guy at 38 years old that, I'm going to look at knock him out. I want to say his last knockout win was back in 2018. And I think that Cody's going to be able to use wrestling to stay away from the submission game of Barcelos. And Lusa, I like the length of Phil Rowe in that matchup, but I can see a path for him going out there and getting him there in terms of that one. So it'll be some of my top plays. In terms of live dogs in this fight card, so to me, I would look at Kamaru Usman, a plus 240 betting underdog. If we're talking about from the betting side, looking at some live dogs, I would point to him. I mentioned Cody Garbrandt plus 175, Cody Durden plus 155, Phil Rowe plus 105, Vanessa Donopoulos at plus 500. I mean, let me just look up to see what is Vanessa Donopoulos via decision, because look, if she is going to win, she is going to win via decision. So let me just see here. Donopoulos via decision. Wow. Plus 700. I mean, you might as well just take the plus 500. But yeah, that's what other underdogs that stick out to me. Man, I wouldn't feel good about this one. Court McGee at plus 280. I think him and Chiesa go to the decision there. Outside of that, I would say this, one thing I do like to do, and when we're talking about from a gambling perspective, is live betting in MMA. And that's where I think you can find some value. If Petrosky makes it out of the first round, there may be some value on Petrosky. That would be one that I would stick to in there. Top inside the distance fighters. I look at Edmund Shabazian, Mansour Abdul Malik, Rodolfo Bellato, Ricky Simón. Those would be my top inside the distance fighters. Best decision odds fighters. I think the main event goes 25 minutes. Co-main event likely goes 15 minutes. I wouldn't be shocked if Garbrandt Barcelos went all 15 minutes. Chiesa McGee, I do think will go all 15 minutes in terms of that one. Durden Ochoa, I think probably goes all 15 minutes as well in there. And I would expect Horth and Demopoulos will go all 15 minutes as well. But that number is... You're not betting it. Let me just say, because I looked right before the show to see what that number was. It was not a good number. Favorite parlay. So I will tell you, this is my crazy parlay of the day. So this pays at nearly 14-1. 3-fighter parlay. Phil Rowe, Cody Durden, Cody Garbrandt. Plus 13.99. I pulled that one up last night. I will probably put a little sprinkle on that one. But you maybe it's better just to bet all three of those individually. But that to me was one to sit out there. I mean, and the problem with this fight card is there's some fighters you really like, but they've got massive numbers attached to their name. Abdul Malik minus 900, Umar Sy plus minus 800. Malcolm Wellmaker, I think when I looked a little earlier, the number has gone down to, I want to say he's a 16-1 betting favorite. Let me just pull it up here. Yeah, right now, Malcolm Wellmaker minus 1,600. You just can't touch that. I mean, it's just, if you're betting that fight, to me, it's either, hey, throw a little sprinkle at Chris Montigny at plus 1,000. Maybe he shocks the world, but I do like that decision prop in terms of him. But if I was going to build just a 3-fighter parlay, And look, I probably wouldn't feel good about this, but I would say Namajunas at -225, 𝗏𝗏zian at -175. And then for the third play in that, I would probably go 𝗏𝗏𝘁𝘁 at -600. I just feel pretty confident in terms of that one. The Jason and Pete specials, in terms of this week we do not have a A200 8,000 fight, which is Pete special. The opening fight of the night for me, it's either you take the punt play of Vanessa Demopoulos and you just hope that she goes out there and gets a decision victory, or you say, let's play the leverage game in Jamie Lynn Horth. I mean, she's under 20% ownership. But overall, I think it's likely either you play the punt in Vanessa Demopoulos or you pass on the fight. Top captain and MVP. When you're looking at the captain contest, to me, I look at someone like a Umar C. It's going to be a high price tag, but potentially I think he could rack up some points. I don't think Durden would be in the captain contest. I haven't really looked at the captain contest. If Durden's in there, to me, he's a very under the radar one. I would look at Cody Garbrandt potentially knocking out Ani Barcelos, 𝗏𝗏zian because of the early first round, and I think Rose is a sneaky one. I've really, over the last 24 hours, really been talking myself into Rose Namajunas. And earlier on the week, I was very lukewarm on this matchup, but to me, it's one that does stick out to me a little bit there. Road to the Man Series, over under 7.5. I'll take under that one, Sam. I think I'll take under in terms of that one. Let's see here. Best leverage play. I think it's Rose Namajunas. That ownership is extremely low and a lot of value in terms of that one. Best takedown upside. Maybe see if Usman goes the takedown route. I mean, that's one that sticks out to me. I mean, Miranda Maverick, she's going to be shooting takedowns. I mean, so if you're looking for a takedown artist, she's one to covet just because she's going to go out there. But question is, if she gets the fight to the ground, can she keep the fight on the ground? That to me is a concern when it comes to her. Petrosky, I think, is another sneaky takedown person in terms of this one. C, I think, is another one. Paul Craig, but he very well could just flop to his back to try to get the fight to the ground. Cody Durden, 𝗏𝗏𝘁𝘁 would be the other two that I would stick there in terms of that one. Ranking the 9K options, man, we have a crap ton of 9K options. So I would go Mansour Abdul-Malik number 1. 2, I would go Wellmaker. 3, C. 4, Rose. 5, Buckley. 6, Bellato. 7, Chiesa. 8, Horth. Crazy, we have 8 9,000 fighters this week. And Tristan saying it's going to be his first UFC event live going to today. Man, yeah, man, have fun, man. It's UFC. I haven't been to a live UFC event in a while. I'll tell you this. One of the big reasons why I've not attended a live UFC event in a while is the price point. When they were here in Tampa, I was on the road for work, so I couldn't go. I remember when $299 was down in Miami, I had looked at tickets, maybe me and the boys going down there, and when I saw the price tag was $600 just to get in the building, I was like, nope, I'll pass. I'm not paying $600 to get in the building, but Tristan, go have fun tonight here. Value plays underneath AK and a core on DraftKings. So value plays under AK, I look at Rowe, Garbrandt, Durden, Usman as value plays. The punt plays would be Craig and Demopoulos for me. And then in terms of a core on DraftKings, if I would probably say Abdul-Malik, 𝗏𝗏𝘁𝘁, Cody Garbrandt. That would be a core play for me in terms of that one. David said, Pete picking Demopoulos' prize. Wonder if he provides any insight on this one. Let me look at my text message with Pete on that one, because we were talking about that one, because I did mention that I did see some value there. This is what Pete said. He goes, I'm backing Demopoulos because she has fought at 125. Yes, she will be undersized, but if this is a stand-up fight, she's aggressive and constantly wins over the judges' cage side. And I don't view Horth as a -600 favorite versus anyone. Let's see here. Get some other questions in here. Daniel saying, I want as many 9K plus outside Buckley as I can possibly fit in a lineup. To me, this is very similar spot to the last card where there are very few, if any, dogs win. Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're getting more and more of these UFC cards where we're just having so many big favorites that it's just really tough to get to some of these fighters in terms of that one. See, let's try to get some other questions here from Discord. That gets through Discord. Let me hop back over here to YouTube and some of the questions that have come in here that I've not gotten into. This is a comment comes in from Daniel. It says, unless you really think Horth can score 110 plus, I really mean that 110 for 9,400 this week. I might have 0 in my line. Look, I went X her out. I went X her out, but if you're using a lineup optimizer, I probably sit there and say, no matter how many lineups you're building, max it at 10%. I mean, if you want to max it at 5, but I would personally, I would not go more than 10% on her in terms of that one. Let's see here. Ron asked about core 3 on DraftKings and over on FanDuel. Let me pull up the FanDuel salaries in terms of this one. In terms of FanDuel, because I already mentioned about the DraftKings, I would probably say it's very similar. Abdul Malik, just because I think he's going to go out there and get a stoppage in this one. I think it's probably within 5 minutes. If not, it's within 7.5 minutes. I just think he goes out there and he walks through. Cody Brunge in that one. Then I would go Ricky Simone and Edmund Shabazian at 20 and 17. And then you got Malik at 22. Yeah, you're going to have to do some dumpster diving at that point, but that to me would be a good core 3 when we're talking about over on the FanDuel situation. North Fork asked about punt plays. To me, from a high ceiling perspective as a punt play, to me, Paul Craig is the best punt play underneath 7,000. By far, it's Paul Craig. 𝗲𝗏𝘳 could be the safest option at 6,800 in terms of a punt play. Also, I would say and I would put Usman in the punt play category at 7,200. To me, he's another one that would stick out there in terms of that one. Next up, Derek says, McGee is the dog today. Chiesa not the same, and McGee's got solid takedown defense. Yeah, this is it's kind of an odd matchup when you really think about it. This to me, it just kind of screams that, I think both guys are kind of in a similar situation. What would concern me is about on the Chiesa side is if he cannot get the fight to the ground, how does he pay off that price tag? I just think in a striking matchup, I think Court McGee wins. I think Court McGee would, it's probably look, if you tell me this thing plays out on the feet for 15 minutes, I think it's going to be a 29-28, and you're probably not going to feel good either way when the fight goes to the scorecards. You're not going to feel good either way, but I don't mind the dog play there in terms of Court McGee in this one. Cody saying Lusa may have way more upside than Phil Rowe. I think one of the things going to be is how does he kind of contain the length of Phil Rowe in that situation? Can he get, would the mindset be get Phil Rowe on his back? Do not allow him to use that striking advantage that he does have there. Same Vanessa is my highest leverage. If you look at ownership projections, and really, 𝗲𝗏𝘳 and Rose have the same projection. I understand saving the money with Vanessa 𝗲𝗏𝘳. I totally understand that. But to me, I look at Rose as she has got the higher upside, no question about it. She has that potential out there. Let's see here. Next to Daniel goes, do you see any potential groups to make outside of maybe a max sub 6 AKA must to maybe even 9.8 to 8.7? To me, if I was going to go a must-have in that range, in terms of that 9.8 to 8.7 range, I would say either one of 𝗄𝐵𝐵𝐳 and Simone, and then I would probably say in the 9,000 range, 𝗵𝐷𝐿 Umar C, and Rodolfo Bilato. Those would be the three that I would stick out to me in that range here. Samuel goes, I feel all the women's fights are going to go to the decision. Look, yeah, I mean, we know the stat. That is the likelihood when we're talking about women's MMA that more times than not, they are going to go to decision. If you tell me one ends via finish, to me, it's Rose Namajunas going out there and getting a finish there in terms of that one. Joey saying, he goes, I think Moutinho's durability is overblown. Got finished by Guido Canetti in the first round. I have Wellmaker under a half bet. Look, it's from a GPP aspect, Wellmaker's got to go out there and get a first round finish. I mean, I at 9,800, if he doesn't get a first round finish, unless like it's a second round finish where, he gets a couple, let's say he gets 2 knockdowns in the matchup. I just don't see him paying off that price tag. I mean, personally for me, I don't see myself getting to a ton of Malcolm Wellmaker in this one. And it's just about the price tag, because I realize if I'm putting Wellmaker in my lineup, I'm probably having to put a Craig or Demopoulos in my lineup, and that's what just kind of concerns me in terms of that one. I'll probably have a small wager on Wellmaker wins via decision. Next up, Daniels goes 100% on Simone, especially at price. I'll be very overweight on Simone, 8,700 on my 150. Yeah, I think Daniels, I think a lot of people are going to be very heavy on Ricky Simone, and that could be very well the case where you may be, if you want to kind of get away from him a little bit. I mean, he's going to be one of the probably will be the highest owned fighter on this slate, and very well you see why he should. I mean, from what we've seen in Cameron Sutherland in the UFC, I just don't have a lot of optimism for him going out there and being Ricky Simone. I mean, look, Ricky Simone is a guy that I think we always know when we talk about 135 pounds is he's a guy that's going to constantly be in there from that 10 to 15 range, 10, 16, 17 range. I just don't see him being a top 10 guy at this point, but certainly a guy that go in there in terms of that one. Here's a great point, and this is something that Pete talks about a lot of times where, sometimes you can go out there and get that low 6K option and they could score 40 points in a loss, and they can ultimately get you optimal. And Derek mentioned what happened last week with Ashmole. Yeah, that is a great point, because it's something Pete talks about all the time on this is, looking at those low-end options and who could you potentially go out there and get a nice score that ultimately allows you to get to an optimal lineup. Anthony, Craig or Durden, last man in. I feel more confident with Cody Durden just because of the wrestling aspect in terms of that one. But Craig to me he's a boom bust play. I feel like your floor with Cody Durden is much better than, to me, the floor with Paul Craig is like literally 5 points. He could go out there and easily get finished in the opening round by Bilato. I would rather go Durden as the last one in here in terms of that one. Daniels Horth plus 330 inside distance, plus 550 round 1. 46.5 significant strike line, 9,400. No disrespect. You can have all the leverage in the world. I'm not paying 9,400 for Horth. Look, I don't blame you. Daniels, I don't blame you in terms of that one. I'd almost, in terms of those lines you mentioned, the 46.5 significant strikes line would probably be the one that would stick out the most to me. I would look at playing it over in terms of that one. Next up, Andy says, Bilato MVP FanDuel thoughts. I don't mind that. I don't mind that call. I'm looking at his price point, $18, not a bad price point. And just because of the likelihood is that fight's going to end via finish, and probably ends via finish within a round and a half. If your sportsbook has a line of Bilato winning and under 1.5 rounds, I'm probably sure that thing is juiced to the gills. Let me just pull up my sports book and see if they actually have that one on there. So they do not have one, but they do have Bilato wins round 1 and round 2 at minus 120. I think if Bilato wins, he probably drops him, probably finishes him with strikes. Maybe if you want to play it safe, maybe if you're on the betting side, just taking someone win by TKO, KO. But yeah, Bilatto's MVP. I don't mind that call at all in terms of that one. Next up, Daniels goes, Holy S. Usman 7,200 is the best play on the whole card. 56.5 strikes is higher than everyone on the card, but Buckley 68.5 and Lusa 62.5. You could easily need losing Usman on this card at 7,200. Yeah, I mean, that's, if you wanted to get away from, say, a Demopoulos at 6,800, just spend $400 more and get a Usman where the fight's likely going to go 25 minutes. I mean, I wouldn't say I'd be shocked if the fight ends via finish, but I would say that I do expect the fight is going to go 25 minutes in terms of that one. So Derek mentioned this, and I saw John Morgan quote tweet someone basically saying, I live in Chicago and I can't believe these prices. And it looks like a lot of the ticket brokers got access to these tickets before the fights you want to sell. Derek saying it's $2,100 to walk into the Chicago event. If that's a cheap ticket, holy crap. I've seen, obviously being in the MMA world, I have seen the ticket prices for events, and I've seen the fan complaints, and now you're seeing it from the WWE fan as well, where they're complaining about what the ticket prices are. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. Appreciate everyone's tuning in. Fight HQ, of course, we're just a couple hours away from UFC Atlanta. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe to that. Typically, myself and Pete do shows on Monday nights around 8:30 Eastern, 8:45 Eastern. I didn't have a show on Monday because I was out of town on vacation, but typically that's when we do have there. Dan Jackson asking about PrizePicks punts. Dan, let me pull up PrizePicks. To pull up, I'll answer those in a minute. I'll only just pull up those lines and see what actually PrizePicks has. I'd be honest with you. So when the state of Florida banned PrizePicks a couple of years ago, I stopped going on PrizePicks. But it was funny is one of my buddy Sean, he likes to play on PrizePicks, and I want to say Underdog is another one that he likes to play on. Because usually you guys sit there and ask me for my opinion on that one, and let me just see here. I might have to turn my VPN off to get the access, because there's it's just loading in terms of what we have here, but it looks like it's loaded here. Me just log. I would say this. I probably have not logged into my PrizePicks account in months. I actually have money in my account. Well, I guess maybe I should play a little bit. Didn't realize I had some money over here. So let me go over to MMA. I would sit there. I'm just looking at significant strikes. Jamie Lynn Horth at 46.5. If I was going to play that, I would play more. God, I feel the loose of 16.5 significant strikes props a little high in terms of that one. Cameron Smullen, 49.5 significant strikes. I would play less on that one. Just scrolling down to see if anything else sticks out to me. Man, Moutinho at 60.5 significant strikes, man. If he doesn't get finished in the first round, he should be able to smash that number. He should be able to smash that number. You would imagine. Wow, Brunage line's 50.5. God, you might as well just play the under on that one if you're going to go with it. In terms of that one, just because, you got. I think Cody tries to wrestle, but I just don't think he gets the fight to the ground. Miranda Maverick 41.5. I would go less on that one. God, and I'll say the 57.5 number on Kamaru Usman, going more on that one does stick out to me in terms of that one. Buckley 20.5. I would go more. We're talking about fight time. Bilatto, I would say under 8.75. I would say that would be a less than play over on PrizePicks. God, I kind of want to say less than 12 minutes for Ricky Simone. Let me look at the takedown props. Takedowns are some of the ones I Cody Durden 1.5 takedowns. I would go more. I think that's clearly his path to going out there. Miranda Maverick 1.5. Man, that's a really good number. Wouldn't feel good about saying more, but if you look at her history, that would kind of lead you to say she's going to go more than that. Control time. Nothing really sticks out to me in terms of that one. Fantasy score. Man, Horth at 44.5. That seems low in terms of that one. So those are on PrizePicks, but I'll be honest with you, man. I really have not played PrizePicks a ton over. It got banned in Florida like, man, maybe like 9 months ago. But I know they recently got back, and I'm sure it had something to do with the deal that the Hard Rock has. With the state of Florida, next up, Daniels goes, how many round one wins do you see on this card? Quick finishes, 2.5 for that line, maybe flat 3 for round one. In terms of round one finishes, the ones that would stick out to me would be Edmund Shabazian, Abdul Malik Bellado. Those would be 3 that would really stick out to me as potential first round finishes. In terms of quick finishes, I don't see that in terms of that one. Let's see here. Daniel mentions that 𝗶𝐶𝐁 has Horth at 1.5 takedowns at 1.1x, while PrizePicks has it at 2.5. I don't love that either way in terms of that one. Samuel, man, appreciate the super chat there. Always appreciate Samuel coming in with the super chats. Take down king and queen. From the queen aspect, I think it's got to be Miranda Maverick. The concern to me, I would have Samuel in terms of that is she has not shown really the ability to chain wrestle. And what I mean by chain wrestling is, being able to, score 3, 4, 5, 6 takedowns. Can she score 2 takedowns around? Typically, she's scoring 2 to 3 takedowns in a fight. But she doesn't keep the fight on the ground. That, to me, would be the concern there. But she definitely would be the takedown queen. In terms of takedown king, the 2 that stick out to me would be Cody Durden and Ricky Simone. Those would be the 2. I mean, Cody Durden, look, he's a wrestling base. He's a reason to rock. You're rostering Cody Durden because of the takedowns ability in terms of that one, Sam. So those ones that would stick out to me. Let's see here. Next up, Daniels goes, don't usually play any props, but just use them to help protect in my model. Sorry for the comments, bro. Always have a lot to say. Shout out for you going solo, by the way, live show. I love the Discord, man. Hey, Daniels, man, we always appreciate the questions that come in here. When I would like to maybe do some more of these Saturday shows just because of, this time of the year, I do have the ability to do Saturday shows. Once we hit the fall, it's really tough for me to do a Saturday show just because of my travel schedule there. Let's see here. Daniel saying, got to add Wellmaker to the round one list at -110, and I think he's live as a quick finish as well. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations where Malcolm wanted to be on this card. He made it very well known. Was on this card, loses his opponent now. Gets a new opponent here. The UFC. My understanding is they were searching for people to take this fight, and Moutinho was not. My understanding was not the first guy that was offered this fight. And this was going to be Chris Moutinho's way to get back in the UFC. This was going to be how he got back into the UFC. Let me just check Discord to make sure I've not missed any questions that maybe came in a little earlier that I have not seen here. Let's see here. Just kind of scrolling down just to make sure I've not missed anything. If I did miss your question, either line that up on the YouTube chat, or you can also line that up in our Discord channel as well. Of course, mention you do got Peace Patreon page. You want to get access to his algorithm and how he is developing his lineups here. I just say this has nothing to do with UFC Atlanta. I saw this fight booking yesterday. Jared Cannonier, Michael Page. I don't get that one from Michael Page. I'm just being. I don't get that one for Michael Page. I really don't. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I have it. Yeah, looks like I've got everything over Discord. But, look, as I look at kind of how I'm going to be developing lineups and, looking at ownership projections, as I mentioned, when you look at leverage plays, it's the 2 female fights. That is the leverage play in terms of this fight card. I think Rose Namajunas sneaky. I haven't really mentioned all the betting props that I like on this one. In terms of money line plays, more looking at the underdog aspect, Cody Durden at plus 155, Phil Rowe plus 105, Cody Garbrandt at plus 175. Some of the, on Rose Namajunas, I think she'll be a parlay piece when we're talking about the money line at minus 225. But one of the bets I do like on Rose, and it's really sneaky one, Rose inside the distance plus 600 sticks out to me. Another, this would be another I would call a sprinkle bet. Omar Sy decision plus 240 if you want to get away from that minus 800 price tag. Edmund Shabazian wins and under 2.5 rounds. This may be one of my more favorite bets of the day, getting at plus 115, because if Edmund Shabazian wins, he's winning this fight in under 2.5 rounds. I don't see Edmund Shabazian win a decision. If you tell me this thing goes 15 minutes, I think this is a Andre Petrosky decision win. Cody Durden inside the distance plus 350. Cody Garbrandt inside the distance at plus 350. You want to get a little better odds at plus 175. I could very easily say just play the money line on Cody Garbrandt plus 175, but if you're looking to get a little more juice there, inside distance plus 350. Cody Durden wins via decision plus 325. That's another one I like. Bellato, I mentioned this one already, wins round 1 or 2 minus 120. This is very much of a sprinkle type bet. That would be Paul Craig inside the distance plus 475. Chiesa via decision plus 130. Wellmaker via decision plus 550. And then, this 3-fighter parlay that I came up with that when I did this last night, the payout was plus 1399. Phil Rowe, Cody Durden, and Cody Garbrandt. Let's mention Derek has lined some stuff up in here. He says, how do you feel about this for a cycle? Rose via decision, Wellmaker via KO, Durden via submission, and the notes in his next comment, that's plus 1300. I don't mind that. I will say this, overall, I really don't, in terms of betting mixed martial arts, I really don't like going and putting props in there. I would say for the most part, I'm more of a money line bettor when it comes to parlays. But I don't mind that parlay, Derek. I don't mind that parlay at all. I would be the one I'd be concerned is Durden by sub. I could very easily see just Cody Durden going out there and, just wrestle effing Ochoa for 3 rounds there, which from a GPP aspect, that's what we want to see. Look, if you're rostering Cody Durden, we want him lacing up those wrestling shoes that he's been putting on for all of his life and going out there and wrestle effing Jose Ochoa to the ground there. Ochoa, let me just see. Ownership is relatively the same with Cody Durden. I'd rather go there. Looking at just kind of looking at some of the ownership plays I put out there. When you're looking at that underneath 20%, no thank you on Cody Garbrandt, Coney Brunage. Not big on Alonzo Menifield at 6,700. Paul Craig to me is a interesting one. Samuel goes, do you round robin those? I'm guessing, Samuel, you're talking about the prop that Derek mentioned. If that's not the case, let me know, Samuel. But I can see you round robin those. I'm not a big round robin bettor personally. I'm pretty basic when it comes to that. But one of the things I certainly have started getting into more is just because the Hard Rock Sportsbook has really started offering, prop plays in terms of like significant strikes, takedowns. I find myself going in terms of that one. 𝐾𝐸 McGee is also a leverage play in terms of this one. But I think the reality is from a GPP aspect, I would much rather roster Chiesa than I would I would rather roster Chiesa than I would McGee. But I think McGee is a live underdog at 7,000 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he's $12. I think that's a live number. If he can keep the fight on the feet, I think that's really the big key for Court McGee is can he keep the fight on the feet and not allow Michael Chiesa to go out there and roll his submission game. It's one of these things where I look at Michael Chiesa and I really wonder how much is left in the tank. And it's not from a thinking of, because Chiesa obviously has set himself up for post-fighting career with what he's doing commentary. I think he's a very good commentator. I actually would like to see him get an opportunity to be actually calling the fights and not just being on the desk. I would be very interested to see how Chiesa would do in terms of that one. But I think Chiesa just understands where he's at. And you just kind of wonder where he's at in there. Derek mentioned Sayo mentioned those money lines, so I'm guessing, you would round robin. Yeah, I have no problem round robin. If I was going to rank the three that I put in there, I would probably rank it 1 Durden, 2 Garbrandt, 3 Phil Rowe. I would say this. One of my concerns about Phil Rowe is what happens if he gets taken down, and now he's fighting on his back, and he's not able to use that length advantage that he does have. Derek mentioned recent line movements: Barcelos to -270, and Petrosky to +135. That 270 is just crazy to me. That is a crazy number. Let me go over one of the best places if you want to see line movement is bestfightodds.com. And sometimes the only thing I would say, my only criticism about Best Fight Odds is sometimes they always don't have all the fights in one page. So like they have a situation like you have Lusso Rowe and Hortha Demopoulos is on one page and the rest of the fights are on the other. I mean, you look at, Demopoulos, she's currently at +440 over on DK Sportsbook. Jamie Horth at -600. I mean, she started at -395. She's now at -600. So you've had some significant line movement in there. Also, there's been some movement in terms of Lusa, who opened at 148. He got up to about 122. He's now at -162. Look at movements on some of the other fights here over the last 24 hours. Yeah, Barcelos and Petrosky. Also, Cameron Smotherland line has moved a little bit. Let me find Smotherland here. So Smotherland opened at +390. At one point was +300. Now it's up to +330 in terms of that one. But yeah, I mean, to me, in terms of underdog bets, in terms of this one, Rowe, Durden, and Garbrandt would be my top in terms of that one. And, Derek also said, 270 is so steep for him. Yes, I think, that price tag on Jaime Barcelos, to me, is way too steep. I understand not trusting Cody Garbrandt at this point in his career because of everything that's happened over the past couple of years. But that to me is just a huge price tag you got to pay for Jaime Barcelos. Next up, Sam goes, shall we be scared of Usman trying to go striking instead of wrestling? I don't think you should be scared with that because, I think Usman could very easily sit there and be the higher volume striker in terms of this one. That to me is like, if you're a Buckley supporter in GPPs, that to me has got to be your concern is, does Buckley match the volume of Usman? Look, I would love to see Kamaru Usman attempt to go out there and wrestle, but I think more times than not, the thing plays on the feet. But yeah, Samuel, I would not be concerned if he does try to go the wrestling aspect of that. Daniel's mentioned no better website when it comes to fight odds and best fight odds. Also, Fight Metrics for stats. Yeah. Fight Metrics. So if you're not aware, UFCstats.com. That's where every time that I am researching fights, I'm looking at, how many significant strikes have they landed in a fight, how many takedowns, and it's absolutely a tremendous source to go out there when you're looking to break down everything out there. But yeah, I do appreciate everyone tuning in for the solo edition of the Fight HQ podcast here on a Saturday afternoon. Of course, we're a couple hours away from UFC Atlanta. So, look, I'm going to be sitting on the couch, for this card, maybe go out a little bit, for the main card here. But, I'm looking forward to watching the fights. I mean, it's a decent fight night card. I mean, look, it's not a fight night card that you're all giddy about and you're like, oh man, I can't wait for this fights. But, I will say this, I think, the way this fight card was lined up in terms of what fights are at the top of the card versus the bottom of the card, to me, was one that kind of surprised me. I'm gonna get one final question in here in terms of this one. Mr. Grapefruit said Cody Durden best dog in the card. I liked how he pulled Ochoa in during the face-off. Look, you have to. The whole reason for rostering Cody Durden is the wrestling aspect. That to me is the aspect. So if you're just joining us, let me just quickly round off. These are Pete's straight up fight picks. Joaquin Buckley, Rose Namajunas, Edmund Shabazian, Hani Barcelos, Mansour Abdul Malik, Omir C, Rodolfo Bellato, Michael Chiesa, Malcolm Wellmaker, Cody Durden, Ricky Simone, Phil Rowe, and Vanessa Anopoulos. I think the Vanessa Anopoulos call is probably the one that people are going to probably, really look at Pete and say, oh, man, wow. And we'll see what happens there. Of course, we do have our DraftKings contest. Be sure to lock into that contest. Link for that contest is below, so be sure to check that out. Also, we got our Discord channel, totally free to join. We have conversations in there throughout the fights. I appreciate some of the help I was getting last week when I was trying to watch UFC 316 as I was in Cabo. So I do appreciate that. Also, we got Pete's Patreon page. If you want to get access to his algorithm and the spreadsheet they has in there, has a lot of great content in there. You want to check out Pete's Patreon page. The link to that is below. Also, do have an offer from Stokastic where you can get 15% off any of their MMA packages. All you got to do is either click that link below or use that promo code FightHQ. That's how Stokastic knows that you came from FightHQ to take advantage of that. So a great way to show your support for what we do here at FightHQ. Of course, we appreciate the super chats that come in. We got memberships here on YouTube. We appreciate all the support that everyone gives us. It greatly helps, kind of how we're, developing this channel and trying to make upgrades to what we do each and every week. So we do appreciate everyone that takes advantage of the offers, whether it's here on YouTube with the, super chats or the memberships, or maybe you're hitting up Stokastic and because you want to get to their tools, or you're hitting up Pete for his Patreon page. Be sure to get into that as well. I'll be in Discord for a little bit today. I'm going to be kind of just chilling at home. Going to be just hanging out after I leave here in the office as I'm trying to get back to the work grind after being gone for a week. It always seems to be that's the toughest day is when you get back there. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. I don't have any kids. I guess you say my kid is my pup, which he's an old man at this point. He's 13. He's gonna be 13 years old coming up here next year. So he's he was very excited when I got back in town. So happy Father's Day, everyone out there. I know I'll be spending tomorrow afternoon with my dad and looking forward to hanging with my dad for the day, and hopefully everyone goes out there and has a great day. Hopefully everyone goes out there. You get some win GPPs. Put those winning screenshots in a score. If you got a great bet, throw that winning screenshot there. We always love to see what everyone's doing. Or if, but as I said, right before the fight card starts, probably about 30 minutes or so before the fight card starts, I'll put all my bets in there. I'm actually literally going to be placing all my bets here probably about the next 15, 20 minutes or so. So I'll have all my bets in there so you know exactly what I'm playing today. Hopefully is better than UFC 316. 316 was not great for me. Unfortunately, I had both sides of the co-main event, and unfortunately, I had KO via TKO KO, not KO via submission or inside the distance. That one could have played out a lot better for me. So I do appreciate everyone who's tuned in for this episode of this podcast. Of course, we'll be back next week, likely on Monday. If it's not on Monday, we'll let you know because, of course, we're in this stretch run of UFC events. So that's going to do it for this episode of Fight HQ. We'll talk to you right here on the next episode of the Fight HQ podcast.